Dear students of Honors Part 2, hopefully you are keeping well. I am Siddhartha Shankar, an assistant professor in English in Government Horoganga College, Munshigঞ্জ. Dear students, at the beginning of my class, I would like to wish you a happy and prosperous new year. May this new year bring you a lot of happiness and success. Dear students, we are reading out from P.B. Shelley's to a Skylark, and this is a blind spirit, and this spirit is basically incomparable, and the poet basically fails to find anything which can be compared with the joyousness of this bird. Now we are going to start from stanza 13. You are requested to turn over the pages of your book and try to follow what I am telling. So here you see, teach us, sprite or bird, what sweet thoughts are thine? I have never heard praise of love or wine that panted forth the flood of rapture so divine. So here you see, now the poet is this is basically here you will find a turning point of this poem, because in the earlier stanzas we have seen that the poet is trying to compare the bird with some earthly things, but this bird, the joyousness of this bird is not comparable to anything. Now the poet is thinking whether it is a sprite or bird, whether it is a spirit or bird. And in the at the beginning we found that this is a blind spirit, so this is basically a spirit. It is not a earthly bird or a common type of bird. What sweet thoughts are thine? I have never heard praise of love or wine that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. Hmm. Now the poet is failed to compare the bird with anything, and he hasn't heard such sweet song before. What sweet thoughts are thine? You see the delivery of the outcomings of the bird, or the song that the bird delivers, is basically very much sweet, and this sweet thought is uncommon to the poet. And I have never heard praise of love or wine that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. Praise of love or wine, a lover who is in love with his beloved, or a wine lover who basically love to drink. Uh, they this type of love is not also comparable with the sweetness of the bird, sweet song of the bird that panted forth the flood of rapture so divine. So this is rapturous. The song of the bird is too much rapturous, and this has a divine value. And this bird is a joyous spirit, and this is not a common bird or earthly bird, and therefore um, the poet fails to compare it with anything. And even the wine lovers, or the uh, lover who is in love with his beloved, this type of love is not compared with the sweetness of this bird, or the sweet song of this bird. Now let's move to stanza 14. Cross hymeneal or triumphal chant, matched with thine would be all but an empty vaunt, a thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want, hidden want. Now you see, uh, the poet is wondering whether with with which thing or object he can compare the bird with. Cross hymenal. Now you see, chorus hymenal. This is a type of chorus during wedding. Wedding is a joyous occasion, when the couple ties the knot. This is a joyous occasion. So the chorus during the wedding is a pleasant one, or triumph, triumphal chant. Triumphal chant is a type of song when a type of song that is sung by heroes when they win a battle. So this is very much pleasant and joyous moment when a marriage take place, or when a battle is won. This type of situation is very much pleasant. Matched with thine would be all but an empty hunt. Now, if if anybody try to compare the bird with that type of pleasant occasion, is something meaningless. That is empty bond. Empty bond means it is actually baseless, and baseless boast, baseless pride. Therefore, vaunt means pride or boast. Therefore, here you find that uh, if we try to compare the song of the bird with anything joyous in this earth, will be invalid, or will be an empty bond, and it is meaningless, or that is baseless. A thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want. There is some hidden want. If we try to compare, there would be some wanting. That is, it is not. It will not be completed. There is. This is incomplete. So, uh, the joy of the human being, or the pleasant moment of human being, or the pleasant occasions that we find on the earth, all are basically incomplete. There is some lack of joyousness or pleasure, uh, pleasant in those occasions. But the bird, it sings so much rapturously, that the rapturous song of of the bird is so much divine and full of happiness, that it cannot be compared with anything that we find in this material world. So therefore, the bird is a divine thing. It is a divine spirit, and it is full of holy pleasure or divine pleasure. The poet basically doesn't find anything which can be compared with the joyousness of this Holy Spirit. Now, the fact is, now the poet is asking some questions in the uh, uh, stanza 15. You see, what objects are the fountains of thy happiest train? What fields or waves or mountains? What shapes of sky or plains? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance of pain? Yes. Now the poet is asking some questions, and of course some rhetorical questions that has some rhetoric value, literary value. That the poet is asking question because he didn't find anything to which it can be compared. Now the poet is asking some questions. What objects are the fountains of the happiest train? From where do you get such type of joyousness, such type of happiness? From where does you from where do you derive such happiness? uh, what objects, from which thing do you get this? Now the poet is going to ask, continuing to ask, um, what fields or waves or mountains, fields, waves or mountains, these are very much beautiful. From where do you get this? From which field, from which waves, from which mountain do you get such type of spirit? Do you get such type of joyousness, such type of happiness? uh, what shapes of sky or plane? From where do you get? From what sky or from which plane that we don't find in this world? huh? The poet is thinking that any field, any waves or mountain or sky or even the plane, nowhere such joyousness is found. So from where do you get such a type of joyousness, such type of rapturous happiness? From where do you get? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance or pain? Now, this last uh, line, you see, this is very important. What love of thine own kind? Does it come from the love of your love for your own species? That means uh, anything on this earth is incomparable to your blithe spirit, to your joyousness. So it may be your, or it may come from your own spirit, that thine own kind. What ignorance of pain? Hmm? So now the question is, from where do you get such type of inspiration to sing such beautiful song? So dear students, in this part of this poem, we have seen that the poet is the poet is basically incapable of comparing the bird with anything. Now he is asking the question, from where does it derive such uh, joyousness? Now maybe it come from its own species, and it may be from that yeah, from the ignorance or of pain. From what ignorance of pain? This is the question to the bird that the poet asks. Hopefully you have understood today's lesson. In my next lessons I will discuss the next portion of this poem. So thanks for watching now.